right, listen up. We got a hard road ahead of us, and some of you ain't gonna make it.
I can ride, Blackjack. You ain't got to worry, no.
Any man who can keep up with me, I'll see you in Chihuahua. The rest of you, I'll see you in hell.
It's the EsotEric Eric Roberts podcast, and we are once again casting our eyes and ears back to 1999 through the pixelated screen of YouTube to talk about the film Purgatory. And I'm here with Roughneck Roy.
Yo, yo, yo.
How's everything, Roy?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Do you have your shirt off?
Yes.
This is a summertime episode.
I totally have my shirt on.
I have mine on. I have some air conditioning on, and
Mine's too noisy.
well, my neighbors are remodeling, so there's going to be noise no matter what. It's inescapable.
Yeah,
the microphone will probably
microphone too.
My mic will probably pick none of that up, but where I am, it's 79 degrees.
Oh, very nice.
So it's
It's
a mild day.
It's not that hot yet. It's not even noon, but it's been kind of a warm, since I've been in LA, it's been hotter than previous late Junes that of the last few years here.
Well, this is our first Eric Roberts Western.
Yeah.
And our 100th Eric Roberts fugitive film.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
He loves to play fugitives.
I didn't think of that.
Did you look up any of the other Eric Roberts Westerns there are?
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I don't think I have a comprehensive list, but I have The Long Ride Home from 2003, starring Randy Travis.
Oh, wow.
And from 2013, there is Day of the Gun, which I've never heard of. I have heard of the Day of the Rope, though. The 2015 film Six Gun Savior, where Eric Roberts plays the devil.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a film about a cowboy who sells his soul.
That's kind of similar to this movie.
Yeah, it says here a cowboy sells his soul to the devil in a pact to save his dying brother, but the devil is not known for keeping his word, making him a bounty hunter for hell. Watch now for free on Tubi.
Wow.
And then another one from 2016 called $5,000. So he's been in some. I would hazard to say that Purgatory is his first.
Maybe so. Let me think. I mean, I can't think of any before this one.
There might be some real esoteric ones that we don't know about.
Maybe so.
Purgatory was made for TNT.
I mean, Raggedy Man probably isn't technically a Western, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what era it's supposed to be set in.
Yeah, this is from a real era of TNT Westerns.
Yeah.
That were pretty good. Like, they had some good ones. They would advertise them a lot, and I wouldn't watch them back in the day, although I did watch part of this one because you came to school one day having seen it on TV the night before, and you made it sound really fun. I hadn't even heard of this one, I don't think. But they also did one called The Rough Riders, about the Rough Riders, with, I think, Tom Berenger as, Teddy Roosevelt, that was directed by Walter Hill. That was really fun.
Right.
They did the Andersonville movie. Rough Riders, I forget who he plays, but he features a really good performance by Gary Busey.
I might be mistaking this for the Walter Hill one, but I thought you had told me about a Milius written one or directed one.
Oh, maybe it is a John Milius. I'm sorry. It might be a John Milius. That could be my mistake.
Okay, so the Rough Riders from 97 was written by John Milius and Hugh Wilson.
It doesn't tell us who directed the Rough Riders on it.
Directed by John Milius.
There you go. You were right. It was John Milius.
But there may be a Walter Hill Western in this period as well.
He eventually did that TV Western for AMC or just several years later, around 2005, 2006 era, the Broken Trail.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Which is quite good, I think.
Well, the 90s started off strong with the Westerns. There had been some big resurgence with, Young Guns probably kicked it off. And then we had Dances with Wolves.
Well, the real movie that kicked it off in a way, I think, is Pale Rider.
Really?
Pale Rider was a massive hit, and they're really they say there were no 80s Westerns really before it, but there was like Silverado, there was The Long Riders, there were scattered Westerns, but Pale Rider came along and made a lot of money kind of out of nowhere from Clint Eastwood.
This is also kind of a fantasy Western, right?
Yeah, it kind of is. And then Young Guns came along. I guess Pale Rider isn't quite as fantasy as the movie that would be more analogous to this is High Plains Drifter, but Pale Rider is kind of a fantasy Western in a way, but it's more kind of also like Shane or something, but with more of a spaghetti Western feel. It's the one where Clint Eastwood really shows off everything he learned from Leone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Young Guns, which also was a big hit. And then, what happened was you had the movie Dances with Wolves, which was just massive.
Followed by Unforgiven.
Yeah, and Tombstone, and just lots of Westerns in the 90s. And even to
Maverick was a big hit.
Maverick was a big hit. To this day, there are still several Westerns, although for the most part, they've kind of gone back to the B movie level. But there was the big remake of Magnificent Seven. There was Hostiles with Christian Bale. There was the remake of 3:10 to Yuma several years ago now, well over a decade ago now, about 15 years ago.
Had True Grit.
Oh, yeah, you had True Grit.
I would say True in the 2010s. I think Westerns were pretty strong in the 2010s. Now,
yeah, you had Ballad
Django,
of Buster Scruggs. Django Unchained was a big hit. Yeah. The 80s are really maybe the most down period for the Western.
But what I read about Purgatory was that it was made for TV, but not initially planned for TV. But Westerns had kind of taken a dip in this period. I think after, I don't know, was Tombstone even a hit, or is it more of a cult favorite?
Tombstone made money.
Okay.
It wasn't a smash hit, but it definitely made money. Wyatt Earp probably did not. But also in this range, there was Open Range with Kevin Costner.
Yeah, there's just not a lot that I can think of from the late 90s into the 2000s that are super, super memorable. There were
Tombstone's
a lot of
from 93, and then Wyatt Earp's from 94.
You have a lot of kind of semi-westerns, like I guess All the Pretty Horses is a western. I don't think it did well.
Yeah, it's a modern western. Yeah, I don't think it did well either. There were also your Civil War movies and stuff. There was Cold Mountain was a big hit, but I think that Ride with the Devil was not.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a semi-western the other day that if I know you and I, we have the Criterion channel and they have all those Richard Linklater movies, and some of them are leaving, but it had been a long time since I'd seen the Newton Boys.
Yeah, never saw it.
It's really well produced. Like, it's gorgeous, and It has a lot of cool parts and cool character actors, including the recently deceased Bo Hopkins.
R.I.P. Bo.
Yeah.
Well, who else do we have in Purgatory that we know besides Eric Roberts, who, is pretty much the star? I don't know, maybe Sam Shepard.
Sam Shepard's maybe I think really isn't the star, is kind of playing Bo Hopkins. It's Brad Rowe playing the Bo Hopkins character from The Wild Bunch, more or less.
True. Yeah, I mean, he's the protagonist.
Yeah, and whom I don't recognize really. He looks familiar. I can't say as I can name anything I know Brad Rowe from.
No, me neither.
But we also have Donnie Wahlberg as Deputy Glenn, whom I was thinking was really kind of analogous to Eric Roberts, in that he was famous before Mark Wahlberg and then was overshadowed, and much like Eric Roberts, was overshadowed by Julia Roberts.
To talk about Donnie for a minute, this is probably 10 years since his high water mark of fame.
Yes.
In New Kids on the Block.
Yes. And the same year as sort of probably a movie that helped his acting come back even more was he was in The Sixth Sense.
That's right. And looking at Donnie's filmography, for whatever reason, he really likes to be in these horror movies. He's in a bunch of them.
I think he's most noted now for every old person watches that show Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
And he's one of Tom Selleck's sons, I think, on that.
We have Peter Stormare in there.
Yes, whom I never is. So I call him Peter Stormare as well. Is that how you say his name?
Well, what is he? Is a Swedish guy?
I have no idea.
I mean, who knows? Stormare, something.
We have Randy Quaid, another famous sibling.
That's right. Randy Quaid, sorry to spoil it, who is playing Doc Holliday.
Which his brother played in Wyatt Earp.
So we have two Quaids playing two Hollidays.
And then we have songwriter J.D. Southern playing Brooks, a.k.a. Jesse James.
Yeah. I recognize that guy.
We should do a dive on later or at some point on what our favorite J.D. Southern songs are. He's written a lot of songs we know. Everybody probably knows, or lots of people know.
Yeah, maybe at the end of the episode we can round it out by talking.
And we have Love, Cheat, and Steal alum Richard Edson.
Yeah, that's right. I knew that he had been in another episode, but I forgot which movie it was. Edson doesn't have much to do in this, sadly.
No, he's really, and neither does another great character actor, John Deal.
That's right.
As Badger.
Yeah, who we know probably most famously from Heat.
John Deal is not in Heat, I don't think.
No, I'm thinking about somebody else who plays
John Deal
Wayne
was
Grow.
Yeah, he does remind of the guy that plays Wayne Grow. It's like a Kevin Gage. John Deal we know from Stripes, Miami Vice, the TV show. He's had some leading roles. He was in Wim Wenders movie he and Michelle Williams starred in. I forget also the title of that. Maybe it's called like Home Front or something. And he played G. Gordon Liddy in Nixon. I always think John Deal looks like a guy I could be related to or something.
I don't remember who we were talking about in a previous episode, but we said somebody, maybe LaPaglia, we said had a face that was made for Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
And John Deal has that way about him for sure. He feels like a guy who's been in 100 Tales from the Crypt episodes.
Yeah, he was in 100 Miami Vices, or at least many of them. He was one of the like main cops on there. Also not as famous, but the coachman in this, R.G. Armstrong.
I recognized him.
He played Prune Face in Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
And he might have passed away not long after this movie. This might have been one of his last roles. And I thought it'd be funny if like at his funeral, they just showed him riding off into heaven in that coach, like at the end of the movie.
What about Grant Saginaw?
He looks familiar.
Yeah, he's been in some stuff for sure.
Oh, yeah. You know who else is in this? The main lady in this movie, Amelia Heinley. She's the girl that Peter Fonda dates in The Limey, which we brought up before that I enjoy The Limey.
Mm-hmm. And that
She's
is
the one that's named after the constellation.
The lady that plays Rose, who's
yes.
in the town. Okay. Well, what can you tell us about the director, Roy? Uli Edel.
He was a guy that, like a lot of directors, he's got his shot and kind of his movies didn't make money or something. He made Last Exit to Brooklyn, which I've never seen. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
And he did a Tales from the Crypt, which featured that guy that would play the wind god in the Odyssey. And I just kept
from
seeing,
Scrooged.
Yeah, and I just kept seeing that guy when I've been watching a lot of things. I've been living on an oil rig, and just everything I would watch would have that guy in it. Like he was in an episode of Crime Story season 2 as a Las Vegas pimp.
The great Michael J. Pollard.
Yes. And then he was in that movie that's also leaving Criterion Channel about the Village Voice, a fictionalized version of the Village Voice, Between the Lines.
Okay.
And I saw him in something else too. It's just like he just keeps popping up, but he was quite good in a small role on the Uli Edel Tales from the Crypt episode.
The ubiquitous Michael J. Pollard podcast.
Uli Edel also directed some episodes of Homicide: Life on the Street. He's directed a lot of movies, some of them foreign. He directed the movie The Baader-Meinhof Complex, which I watched years ago, which is pretty decent. It's one of those 2-part movies like Che or Kill Bill about the Baader-Meinhof Complex group.
Yeah, big time kraut, this Uli Edel guy.
I feel like we're missing another big credit on his list that we know.
Did you say Body of Evidence?
Yeah, he did Body of Evidence. I did not say that, but he did
a movie
do
I've
Body
never
of
seen but the cover of it was always funny to me. Willem Dafoe making out with Madonna.
I've seen it. That's the movie that sent him to TV, not Last Exit to Brooklyn. It's like Body of Evidence was a universally like panned movie that flopped huge.
Yeah.
He directed an episode of Twin Peaks.
Madonna recovered from it.
I watched his movie of Tyson, the 90s HBO movie Tyson, and honestly, nice. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I just saw there is a new Tyson movie coming out.
We'll see if they can top it. It wasn't bad. And he also directed that TV movie of Rasputin, which I've seen years ago.
Who plays Rasputin in that?
Alan Rickman.
Perfect. I would have cast Vincent Gallo.
Similar vibe.
So the tagline of Purgatory is, for a band of outlaws, the only thing worse than being bad is spending eternity being good. It's pretty classic.
And this movie's written by a classic Western writer who wrote some episodes of Maverick. He wrote a lot of TV. I think he was one of the writers on Ballad of Cable Hogue, maybe even The Getaway, the Sam Peckinpah movies.
Mm-hmm.
This guy goes back forever. Who knows when he wrote Purgatory? I don't think it was the original title of the movie. I think it was called something else. This could have been written in the 70s or something, or 60s. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it could have originally been a Twilight Zone episode for all we know.
Yeah.
And it also kind of has that vibe of like an episode of something that is stretched out.
It does.
It doesn't quite feel like a movie. However, it does say it was shot on 35 millimeter.
It looks good. I think it's a pretty good looking movie.
Yeah, it is a good looking movie. Some of the sets and stuff have a bit of a TV feeling to it, but they had to do what they could with the budget they had.
Yeah, but like, we get this action sequence at the beginning, and like when they're riding out in the desert away from that posse and all that dust is getting kicked up, it's pretty cinematic.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that horse chase stuff, but that was to me like most cinematic stuff in the movie. I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, it looked cool. Like it was like you were watching Tombstone or something.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Well, the movie starts with the robbery, much like you've seen many more Westerns than I have, but I immediately thought of the Wild Bunch.
Yeah, it's pretty much the beginning of the Wild Bunch, right? Even with those people like set up, it's their people, but they're set up as snipers.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
we have
providing cover.
The gang hanging out in town, not looking suspicious at all. The Blackjack Britain gang. Isn't that I guess that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Preparing to rob a bank. And you see the young protagonist, Sonny, is showing off for some kids. He's showing his gun twirling skills, which pisses off his uncle. Is it Cavan?
Yes, it's Cavan, which was pretty weird. Weird
Cavan
name.
Guthrie, or he also calls him Uncle Guthrie.
Yeah, his name is Cavan, and I had to like rewind it a little bit at some point, although they end up saying his name a trillion times by the end. But I was like, Cavan, not Gavin. But that's kind of that's what I was saying. He was based on Bo Hopkins in the Wild Bunch, the lead character, because Bo Hopkins was Pike's nephew that gets killed in the beginning of the Wild Bunch, and it's part of Pike's guilt that he let like his sister's kid die or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. The uncle goes over and tells him to knock it off, all the showing off before the robbing, because it's not good. And it says something about vouching for him, don't let him down.
What'd you think about Peter Stormare's accent work in this?
Kind of weird.
Yeah,
but he's just always so fun to watch and always convincing otherwise.
He's a classic ham. This is one of the few movies though, like he's one of those guys, like if you look at his IMDb picture right now, he's a handsome guy. But in the movie, he plays like so many creeps and creepy looking dudes. Maybe compared to other actors, he's not always super handsome. This is one of the movies where he gets to look the handsomest. It's
actually really crazy that he was in a TV movie in 1999, because he was riding pretty high.
He really was.
Like he'd been in, I mean, how many Coens had he been in at that point? 2 or 3?
2. And he was in lots of stuff. We're still before he's in Minority
Armageddon
Report.
Was a huge hit.
Yeah, he's been Russian space stationing it up.
And here he is in Purgatory.
Yeah, you see, I told you the whole damn town is full of Bible thumpers.
It's right, boss. Nothing but a bunch of damn cheek turners. It's gonna be real easy.
What's gonna be easy?
It's none of your damn business.
I think actors really like doing Westerns, is one of my theories.
I bet. Yeah. I bet it's fun.
I think if you're especially a guy actor doing Westerns, it's probably one of the reasons you get into doing movies in the first place. It's the dream of getting to play a cowboy or something.
Just looking at Stormare's filmography, after Fargo, he was in The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's a pretty big movie.
Armageddon.
Pretty big.
Mercury Rising, a Bruce Willis thriller that
definitely,
I don't remember.
I think that probably made money even.
Yeah.
Maybe not a lot.
And then he would go on. In 99, he would be in Purgatory and 8 millimeter.
Oh, yeah, 8 millimeter. That's the kind of movie you expect to see Peter Stormare in.
In 1999, Peter Stormare played the characters Cavan Guthrie and Dino Velvet.
Dino Velvet. Wow.
Yeah, so these guys rob this bank, and as they're robbing it, the nephew, who's I guess he's a lookout boy, he's outside of the bank, the Sonny guy.
Mm-hmm.
He notices this lady and recognizes her as some kind of famous lady.
Dolly Sloane, prostitute with a heart of gold. He loves to read dime novels, we find out.
Now, is this a real person? I'd never heard of
Dolly Sloane. I'd never heard of either. She was a real person. She's was a, I guess, gambler and maybe prostitute who eventually became a philanthropist and was married to a man named John Sloane, who apparently is a famous artist whom I had never heard of, who's more famous than her. And so I think that she's not all that famous. Maybe they were really struggling for a famous prostitute and they came up with Dolly Sloane. She also did not die in a gunfight or anything. She lived a nice long life, mostly not by illegal means, it seems like.
Well, she does die. A shootout happens after the robbery and she gets caught in the crossfire and she dies in Sonny's arms. It's very important that we note that Sonny watches Dolly die in his arms, right?
Yes, I mean, very important.
Roy, this guy watches this woman draw her last breath.
Yes, he does.
And then right after, the gang rides out.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about people we recognize. I don't remember the character of Knox in the movie. Maybe he's one of the gang or something.
Knox
Maybe
Overstreet?
I don't know. But it's played by this guy, Gregory Scott Cummins. And I immediately recognize him in modern times because he's a regular on Bosch. He's one of my favorite Bosch characters.
Oh, okay. Gregory Scott Cummins.
He plays Crate or Barrel, one of two partner detectives named Creighton that are nicknamed Crate and Barrel.
So at some point during all of this, also John Dill, who is Badger Britton, he is Eric Roberts' brother, he gets shot.
Yeah, Badger is a classic good name for a character played by John Dill.
I must have just briefly looked away when John Dill got it. Did you see it?
I don't remember him getting shot, really. I remember he dies and I remember all him, it comes up as we go along. All the stuff
riding wounded.
Dying. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys ride out super fast out of this town. And there's a great part when they get outside of the town where Eric Roberts as Black Jack Britton says, "Those who can't keep up, I'll see you in Chihuahua. Those who can't, I'll see you in hell."
This is another failure of IMDb. It doesn't list nearly all the people in this.
I may have said can't twice. Sorry.
And one guy in their gang looks a lot like he could be related to James Van Der Beek to me.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. And there's not much sympathy at all from Eric Roberts for his brother who's been shot. I think when it first gets brought up, he just tells him to keep riding or something. And these guys are riding hard to stay ahead of the authorities. And through all of this riding, at some point, John Dill falls off of his horse and can't go on. And he begs to be killed. He begs his brother to shoot him. And Eric Roberts tells him he can't waste a bullet. Pretty harsh, Roy.
Yeah.
You ever mercy killed a man?
No, not yet.
I mean, I would if I had to. If you knew somebody wasn't going to make it.
I guess, I don't know. It's a tough one for me to put myself in that position.
It's a toughie. If I had a gun and it was the Old West and I was in a fantasy Western, then I guess I could maybe summon the courage to do it. But it is Sonny who's the one who takes pity on him and finishes him off. And there's John Dill gives him some advice before he dies. Do you remember what he says?
To go home or something, not to go with them.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. There's a better life. There's a way out. He tells him this isn't the life that you thought from reading dime store novels. This is the real, where people wander into some Brigadoon type valley in the dust and mist.
Yeah, they get chased by the posse until all of a sudden they go through some rocks. Then they
get ambushed by the posse. Now this is where that great horse chase happens.
Yes.
Which looked like 100 horses, insane amount of horses. Also, they had mentioned that, so they do, the robbery is successful. We didn't say that. And they have bags of money, which they throw on the money horse, which they call Ginger, who is, I think they're just leading the horse, right? There's no man that's riding Ginger because she's so weighed down with money. But we have this great horse chase with all these horses and it just looks so well shot. Looks like they shot it in on Salt Plains somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't look at where they shot this movie. It may have been just in California somewhere, but it does look good.
During this insane chase.
Oh, I think maybe I did. Maybe they shot this in Bakersfield or something, or Barstow.
Okay.
I forget. Maybe
there.
Not.
I just remember it being deserty. Very, very flat and barren and deserty. Yeah, so we have this great horse chase and then the money horse gets shot down.
Yeah, and the money gets scattered.
Yeah, they lose the money. But there's an awesome part where Eric Roberts looks back at the horse after it gets shot. And he looks at it and he just goes, "Bitch." Now, is he calling the horse a bitch, or is he saying bitch is just like an expression?
Situation's a bitch.
But I do love it when people say that. I used to work with this guy, and that was his go-to. Like, we'd be plumbing or something, and you would just hear him in the next room just go, bitch. It's not one you hear very often.
No.
But it's good. So the gang escapes the posse because of a dust storm. They ride into a dust storm. And then, like you said, Roy, they end up in this cavern. You see him riding, all these blackjack gang members riding through this cavern, and they end up on the other side in this idyllic valley that's nice and green with a lot of trees. That kind of looked like Ojai to me.
Yeah, kind of did.
So they keep riding, and then what do we see?
And they're kind of
next?
mystified as to how the hell this exists, this valley, right? They're like, this doesn't look like Mexico or anywhere that would be related to where we were.
Yeah, as mystified as they can be for tough guys. Like Roberts is just kind of seems to take it.
And then Richard Edson says, "What kind of country do you think this is?"
Perfect. And then we see the Gatekeeper. We see Grant Saginaw. They pass him, right?
Yes.
Who's this old Native American guy with a little campfire set up and a horse, and there's this gate, this strange stone gate.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of hanging out and watches them pass as they move into this town. And then we meet the sheriff of the town, played by Sam Shepard.
That's right.
Sheriff Sam. How do you feel about Sam Shepard?
He's fun.
Yeah, cool guy. Have you ever read any of his poetry?
I've read some of his plays.
He's a playwright.
I've read plays and short stories by him. He's probably written a lot of poetry too. I don't know.
Playwright.
Yeah, I read some of his plays like Curse of the Starving Class and True West, and then I've seen like a college theater group put on Curse of the Starving Class when I was much younger, and then I read our buddy Bosch Gargrave, Recent Farther.
Congratulations, Bosch.
He gave me a book called Great Dream of Heaven. It's like a little collection of some of Sam Shepard's short stories. I read that.
How would you describe his style?
Kind of has a Raymond Carver vibe, but it changes. He has different styles. Like there's a Raymond Carver element in there for sure. There's also like sometimes he gets more weird and out there with things.
Yeah, I've seen Fool for Love, directed by Robert Altman. Also,
how is that?
I don't remember. It's very theater. It looks like a filmed play, and that was back in that time period where Altman had no money to shoot stuff, so everything had to be low budget and kind of theatrical looking.
What I like about Sam Shepard is that he's an actor with crazy teeth, as
we see on display here,
and that as he got older, he seemed more and more handsome in the movies because he stayed so thin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, like they cast him as kind of the goofball in not Heaven's Gate. What's that movie? Days of Heaven. But yeah, just through staying so thin and being kind of handsome, it just seems handsomer and handsomer as he gets older.
Yeah, good looking older guy, nice jawline.
I met Sam Shepard once.
Whoa.
He was really drunk and I was working, and I asked him something about the Dallas Cowboys or something. He's like, "What do you know about Cowboys?" And then that actor,
really?
What's the guy's name that's in Wolf of Wall Street, is the FBI guy?
Oh gosh.
He's a famous actor. He led him away from me. He's like, come along, Sam. Sorry, he's drunk.
Come along, Sam.
Yeah, he was very drunk.
We should make a Sam Shepard biopic called Come
funny.
Along, Sam.
Yeah.
Chuck Yeager and The Right Stuff.
Oh yeah.
Died in 2017. God rest his soul. Do you think he's in purgatory right now?
Or in Refuge?
Yeah. We keep spoiling what's going to happen.
Purgatory is a great movie because the title spoils the movie.
Everything spoils the movie. I remember seeing, before I even saw this, which I have no memory of seeing in high school, but I definitely remember there was like a TV commercial that pretty much explains everything. So I knew it was going to be a supernatural Western. But what I couldn't remember, Roy, is if it was like a Sixth Sense type of thing, where are these guys in this gang dead or not? So I'd kind of forgotten how that all worked out. But yeah, we meet Sam Shepard in this town of Refuge, and Eric Roberts explains that they were drovers who were attacked by Apaches, and the Apaches stole their herd. And the Sam Shepard sheriff guy seems very hospitable and tells them they have pretty much the run of the town. He explains there's no telegraph office or newspaper, that they're a little bit off the beaten path. So you immediately get a sense that something's unusual. And then he requests that they not curse while they're in the town.
That's right. Except in the saloon, they're allowed to.
And that's where we go next. Some guys go to see the doctor. He mentions that they have a doctor in town, so the wounded Doc Woods, so the wounded can go get mended by the
sheriff
doc.
is Sheriff Forrest.
Okay, yeah. So you have all these nature names, right?
Yeah, you got Sheriff Forrest, Doc Woods, Deputy Glenn, Rose, Brooks.
Glenn
Lamb.
is Donnie Wahlberg.
Glenn is Donnie Wahlberg. Yes.
Yeah.
Bartender.
Who we meet for the first time, I guess, in this scene. I don't remember.
That's right.
But yeah, we go to this saloon and we go to the doctor's office or the hospital. Actually, yeah. And then the hospitals where Sonny, or outside the hospitals where Sonny meets Rose, who's this pretty girl in town. And she's instantly questioning the legitimacy of these drover claims.
Yeah, they don't have any ropes. That's the thing. You said a lot of rope talk. You get some here about how they don't have drover ropes.
Give me that rope talk. So we go into the hospital or doctor's office and we meet the doctor, played by Randy Quaid. What'd you say his name was? Dr. Wood?
Doc Woods.
Doc Woods. Yeah. And then Donnie Wahlberg shows up around this time, and we get this scene where all the menfolk of the town gather together. So we get Sam Shepard and Wahlberg and Quaid and somebody else, the Souther guy, JT.
Yeah, probably JD Southern.
JD Souther. They're talking about how to handle these guys. So they basically know that everyone knows that they're a gang, that they're bad guys. Like, no one's that dumb in this town, but they're allowing them to kind of do what they want while they're here. So this is weird. And it seems like they have no choice but to let them stay. So another strange flag.
Meanwhile, in the saloon, the gang is having fun, and they realize they're commenting that the law doesn't wear any guns, that they haven't seen any guns in town.
That's right. And they keep recognizing people. Like, they keep thinking that these guys look familiar, and that's something that gets brought up. Then right around sundown, these church bells start ringing. All the townsfolk quickly depart from what they're doing and just rush toward the church. The saloon guy basically tells them that they can have whatever they want, but he has to go to church. Roberts and Stormare are watching all of this happen and kind of sizing it all up, and we get a nice Stormare line where he refers to the people as a bunch of damn cheek turners. And then he says it's going to be real easy. So they're already scheming on how to rip off this town. Later in the evening, the uncle is super drunk as the nephew is trying to talk up this Rose gal, and he gets vulgar in front of her. He's trying to basically get rid of the nephew so he can hook up with this girl. Sam Shepard intervenes, but Sam can't draw his gun, Roy. He wants to.
So he does have a gun.
Something. Maybe he's going to raise his hand against, or he's going to do something to prevent this Stormare guy from...
Well, at some point in the movie, he does have a gun.
Yeah, but maybe he doesn't wear them on him. You're right.
Okay.
He just goes to do something violent, and the lady tells him, no, you can't.
At this point, we've seen most of the characters, if not all, in the movie. And I noticed the only minority in the movie was Saginaw Grant as the gatekeeper. So I was thinking maybe instead of Purgatory, this movie should have been called Heaven.
The sequel to Day of the Rope.
Yeah, Day of the Rope.
That's pretty good.
Is this the scene where when he's getting vulgar with her? It may be later, where Peter Stormare asks Rose if she wants to, he's like, how about me and you crack some calico?
Yeah, I think maybe that's this scene. And it gets, so Shepard can't do anything. So Stormare pulls his gun and points it at him. But before anything else can happen, Sonny cracks his uncle on the back of the head with a bottle. Oh, yeah. And knocks him out. And the sheriff tells him you better take him to bed. We move into the next day where Stormare thinks that he says, I think one of those Bible thumpers bushwhacked me. And Eric Roberts thinks that too. He thinks one of the townsfolk assaulted his guy, basically his number one guy, right? Yes. So we have this great scene of Roberts going to see Sam Shepard, and they have some coffee together.
Yeah, this scene was good. We haven't mentioned it yet, but I think Eric Roberts was pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
But he's completely overshadowed by Sam Shepard's great in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, but Roberts is a great villain in this.
Yeah, and Roberts is kind of doing just sort of a very standard tough guy voice, kind of. He's doing his Southern accent, but he's more of a man, less of a boy in this one than a lot of his movies, and he's not emoting a lot. I thought he was quite good.
Yeah, quite good. I would agree.
Yeah, I was surprisingly good, almost, I would say, in this movie.
Well, I have in my notes here that the learning of that there are no guns in Refuge happens in this scene. And we have Deputy Wahlberg there as well, who's kind of mean mugging Roberts the entire time and says some mean words to Roberts.
Oh yeah, this is the one where he says damn twice, right?
Yeah, after Roberts walks away, Sam Shepard tells him he says, "You said damn twice."
Now we've been mighty hospitable to y'all. Damn right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he gets on them for saying damn twice. Yeah, and it's kind of funny. It's like Wahlberg thinks that he's in trouble for being spiteful or something to Eric Roberts, but Sam Shepard's like, that's not what I'm talking about, and you know it. You said damn twice. But just the way Sam Shepard delivers that line, it's like with the conviction and commitment. It's
pretty solid.
Really good.
How many times do you think he's allowed to say damn before?
I don't know.
I don't want to spoil anything.
The rules.
But you got to watch what you say here.
At some point, you just start trying to follow the rules of Purgatory mentally, just like not to obey them, but try to figure them out.
Yeah, and we'll get into a confusing thing here.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing.
So I have just here that plot-wise, the gang just really continually just raises more and more hell. You get all these great moments of Roberts and his boys up in this like second story balcony area. And I don't know why, like I just always love those shots and those moments of them like partying up there and hanging out.
Yeah. It
had a real like Bourbon Street kind of vibe to it, as like guys up on the second story, just like, you know, boozing from the balcony and watching down below.
And there's one part of here where one of their guys, I guess his name is Danny, it's just like riding a horse around wildly through the town, yipping and yawing, doing something illegal of sorts and out of control. And Eric Roberts says, I like to watch that Danny ride, I tell you what.
Yes, yeah. After that is some knife throwing.
Yeah, when Sam Shepard's trying to get Eric Roberts to control his men because they've been so hospitable, he's like, hey, could they stop throwing knives at our church?
Right. I knew that you would laugh at that.
Lines. Yeah, I sure did.
And it was hilarious. Yeah, these guys are just throwing knives, right? Like just blatantly into this church. And so Roberts isn't going to stop them. And the sheriff walks over. Now, I think there's another Edson. Is Edson down there or is he up in the balcony?
Edson, I think, was with the guys throwing knives.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, so it's Roberts who is up there looking down and he says something like, oh, this is going to be good. And so the sheriff stands before the side of the church and the guys start chucking knives like right next to Sam Shepard's face.
Yeah.
But they keep missing, just barely missing, like right at the side both times. And then suddenly these storm clouds roll in super fast in rumbling thunder. And this one guy has his knife raised and the knife
they kind of make it seem like maybe the next throw is going to be into Sam Shepard.
Yeah, I think maybe it's Edson who's like, this one's going to go right in his windpipe. And the guy raises his knife and he's getting ready to chuck it, but lightning strikes him dead right through the knife.
Yeah, lightning just comes out from above the church in the clouds and gets him right in the knife.
This is two Eric Roberts movies that we've seen.
Oh yeah,
Death by Lightning.
Yes.
So we get two electricity overdose movies. So the guy lays dead on the ground, and not long after comes the old Indian gatekeeper to clean up the mess. And he kind of has
the writer of this, Gordon Dawson. He wrote "Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia." He's one of the writers of that too, which we thought of with Waku Karacha.
That's right. Yeah. Which is also kind of a Western.
Yeah.
But not a pure Western. Yeah, Saginaw Grant shows up. What's he do? Throws the guy's body over his horse and leads him out of town.
Yes.
And then we see the old Native American guy leading the body and the horse up through those gates that he was sitting outside of into a mist-filled property, which is pretty mysterious, underscored by mysterious music.
Did the music in this remind you of the La Cucaracha music to some extent? You were talking about how many movies had scores like this in this period.
I was hoping that there would be more of that crazy slide guitar, but not so much. This was a little bit more of a traditional score. Did you think different?
No.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of it at first, and then it kind of went away. Both of the Quaid brothers played Doc Holliday, but you know who else did? Adam West once on TV. And I had a dream about Adam West that involved this program that we're making now. And this this dream, I came upon a weird Adam West video from the 90s where he's in a mansion talking to an interviewer, and he tells about an episode of Batman he wrote that was never produced. And he just starts quoting the entire episode from memory that he wrote, and it's just filled with cursing and blue humor, and he like does a perfect Burt Ward impression. And then like I saw a website that was owned by Tim Heidecker where people write articles on weird obscure pop culture, and I thought that hosting this show would get me a job working on that website. And so I started just like scanning this website, and it turned out people were already on this video, and I decided that this show wasn't good enough to get me a job on the website. But then somehow I had a job where I was out surveying people about it, like in public, about this video. And I was in the city, and I was canvassing the commercial downtown district, and it had interspersed extras for the episode. And it was like women dressed as clowns and things, and different themed gangs like in the Warriors. And there was a black women gang that was baby themed, but they were all like Raggedy Ann urchin babies. And I guess like kind of like the orphan gang and the Warriors or something. But I said that was racist. And this one black lady turned to me and said, "Not really." And I said, "Yeah, it is." And she was like, "Yeah, it kind of is. You're right." And then there were child extras, but instead of being costumed as 1960s Gothamites or gang members or something, they just been given old 1990s Goodwill clothes. Like a kid had on a Seattle Supersonics 1990s t-shirt. And then there was like a clown lady gang. And one of the ladies, she took the arm of a man in public that wasn't part of the production and started acting like they were on a date together, and she was into him. And he was like super happy and smitten, and like they started doing all this date stuff, but he didn't notice that his pants were like clown pants and matched her clown outfit exactly. And he was just being used by her to get into more shots of the episode and get more screenshots. And I saw the shots being taken of them, but they were like still shots being snapped of them doing corny date stuff.
Roy, that's pretty fascinating what I paid attention to.
Hey, that movie In Between the Lines with that guy from the Odyssey? It has Mary Lou Henner playing a stripper and getting topless.
Oh, another alum of the EsotEric Roberts podcast.
Was Mary Lou Henner on it?
Oh, Mary Lou Retton, sorry. I always get those two mixed up. One's an amazing gymnast. The other one has like
an amazing memory. Yeah.
A mental acrobat, if you will.
And on one of the homicide episodes, Uli Edel directed, Max Perlich was in it. He was a cast member for a while.
Oh yeah, another guy that has been in on the EsotEric Roberts podcast as a guest. He was here, remember?
Yes.
I interviewed him about that movie.
He was tweaking his nipples.
Yeah, that's right. He too, you and Perlich both had your shirts off.
Yeah.
But about the dream,
his nipples for a while.
About that dream thing, I know it was rude what I said, but we are recording this conversation, and I will listen to that story.
On
that's a promise.
3 times the speed.
Promise I make to you, Roy.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3x speed. And then he was wearing clown pants. So the next thing we see in the movie are the guys go to an ammo store. So there's no guns in town, but there's an ammo store.
It's like a general store, I feel like, right? Like, and they debate whether or not it would even have ammo, and they decide to look anyway. And it does.
You're probably right. It's not an ammo store, but
yeah,
that would be funny.
And the main guy, he like old Sonny, he talks up the store owner, who is JD Southern as Brooks.
Yes.
Well, Peter Stormare awkwardly steals bullets in the background.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is where Brad Rowe, he asks JD Southern if anybody's ever told him he looks like Jesse James. And he's like, yeah, I remember a man in Tulsa once said that. And he says, yeah, but Jesse James looked taller. He's like, as I recall, that's what the man in Tulsa said too.
Mm-hmm. Now I have on my notes here that his name is Souther with no N.
I guess you're right.
So I guess it doesn't matter.
It is Souther.
It would be it's probably pronounced Souther, right?
Yeah, I would guess, or Souther. I don't know. Maybe it's
Souther?
Souther. Yeah, I don't know. Souther.
Maybe he's a Southie. Have
He's
we
from
seen him in other
Detroit.
movies?
He has had quite the acting career of scattered roles over the years. He's been in, well, I guess he was on, not much after Purgatory. Actually, he has not had much of an acting career. He was in the movie Postcards from the Edge. He was in My Girl 2.
Classic.
He was on several episodes of 30-something.
Ooh, do you remember much about that show?
No.
Yeah.
He was in the movie Always as a singer. But yeah, after
Spielberg.
Purgatory, only a few things. He was on the TV show Nashville for 7 episodes. It seems like most of what he did was act on the show Nashville.
Yeah, Peter Stormare steals all of this ammo, and they go back to their spot in town, and where he opens his jacket and just dumps out. I guess it's in the saloon. Just dumps out boxes of bullets, and they just keep talking about how it's going to be so easy. This is going to be so easy. Somewhere in here, we meet this gardener named Lamb, who was in the menfolk meeting scene that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, we just get this long string of scenes where the Sonny guy is meeting these different characters in the town and kind of slowly starting to realize that they are actually like famous gunfighter fugitive types.
Yeah, and this guy John Dennis Johnson, he played Stillwell in Wyatt Earp.
Oh yeah, this guy has a great Western mug.
Yeah, he really does. He was in Pale Rider as a deputy as well.
And in that
He's been
scene,
in tons of movies.
In that scene where they're all gathered to discuss how they're going to handle the gang, he seems like such a very like calm and gentle guy. And as a gardener, he's very calm and gentle. And I believe, who's the guy you said liked to ride crazy that Eric Roberts mentions?
Davey, I think he says his name is.
I believe it's Davey here, who is riding the horse wild through the guy's garden.
Yes.
And like smashing a bunch of his melons and stuff with the horse and laughing.
Which is also making me laugh.
Oh man. Yes.
It's kind of crazy that Roberts was into supernatural Westerns because it feels like there aren't that many. Like we bring up High Plains Drifter, and then there was Ravenous, which we brought up before.
Yeah, supernatural Westerns.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that's really like much of a genre, but Roberts has been in multiple.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, I mean, maybe the reason for that is because Purgatory was very well received. And I'm just guessing, but because it doesn't say anywhere here really what the big reception was. It says here on Wikipedia, it got positive reviews.
It got a lot of nominations at different things, mostly for its like sound design and editing and stuff. I think it won something for sound.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a book called Undead in the West that has a chapter that examines Purgatory's surreal and religious themes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not read that book.
Now, Roy, if I remember right, you were not raised Catholic.
That is correct.
So, and neither was I. And so you and I have not had much purgatory indoctrination in our lives.
No.
It was something that was never talked about in my church going times in my youth.
There was a church Sunday or something, or some kind of discussion of it at some point with me and I forget whom, possibly my mother, just somebody at church, because there is some story in the Bible about whether or not people being in a waiting place, waiting for the time of the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking about that at some point. It was kind of avoided or something, or it seems kind of like a wishy-washy answer.
Yeah, it seems pretty unclear. And it seems like the idea of purgatory was maybe a little bit more of something of an influence that came from Greek and Roman mythology, because I think their idea of Hades and the afterlife is more of a purgatorial kind of waiting place, which, A lot of that stuff bled into the Roman Catholic Church.
Sure. Well, I mean, Christianity comes from the Roman era and it's post the Greek era.
Mm-hmm.
So no reason why it shouldn't.
But yeah, not something that's talked much about in the scripture, but became like a huge part of Catholic doctrine, and is really what led primarily to the Protestant Reformation, was the idea of those, what are they called? Indulgences, to get the people
cells
out.
of indulgences.
Yeah, and that's all kind of a purgatory thing. Pretty interesting. I mean, as for some kind of fictional device, it's pretty great. I mean, it's in the Divine Comedy. It's in a lot of stuff.
So are we at the point where we like start to know the rules of purgatory yet, or we're not? We're kind of not there. We know that a guy was about to throw a knife through a guy and got struck by lightning and immediately taken out.
Yeah,
we
all
know
this,
that the
theological talk interrupted my
sorry.
plotting. No, it's not very interesting to talk about purgatory. But in the story of the movie, the gardener flips out and kills Davy with a shovel.
Yeah. And
for
he's
ruining
a
his
supposedly
crops.
famous outlaw that also is real, but one I'd never heard of. What's his name? Like Slade, Lefty Slade.
Lefty Slade.
It was also real, but the things they say about him in this movie, like eventually, like there's a point where it's already happened, I guess, where we didn't bring up that Brad Rowe is the one really who is starting to recognize these people. And I guess we brought up that he asked J.D. Souther about if he was like Jesse James. He also has looked at one of his dime novels he has with him about Wild Bill Hickok, and he thinks Wild Bill Hickok looks exactly like Sam Shepard with a mustache, which made me think, have you ever seen Sam Shepard with a mustache? He doesn't have one in the movie.
Doesn't he seem like a classic mustache haver?
To me, I don't think I've ever seen him with one. And I was wondering if he's just one of those guys that doesn't look good with one. Like, I look terrible with a mustache.
Well, maybe that's kind of a Mandela effect thing. You know what the Mandela effect is?
Where
like,
someone says something and you believe it, or a mass belief about something.
Yeah, just a mass misremembering of something. Like the Berenstein Bears was actually spelled Berenstain with an A, and everybody remembers it as Berenstein. But I mean, in a way, when you think about Sam Shepard, in my mind, I think of him with a mustache. I think of him as a Tom Selleck-y kind of guy, but no.
Maybe he had one when he was a rocker. Like he used to be a drummer or something in a rock band in like the early 70s.
Yeah,
I
wasn't
could definitely
he in a relationship with Patti Smith?
Yeah, could definitely remember him or picture him with a mustache, like a crazy shaggy handlebar mustache. But
yeah, I just always associate him with the West.
I can't think of a single time I've seen him with a mustache.
Yeah, if only there was a search engine that I could just type in Sam Shepard mustache, and it would give me some kind of results. Well, it's given me a lot of Sam Elliott mustache pictures. I'm looking at a Sam Shepard beard.
Nice.
Here he is as an older man with a mustache.
So I guess he did have a mustache at some point.
Yeah. He has had them, but it's not his default look. Like you said, he's mostly clean shaven with those. He kind of reminds me of a hawk.
Yeah,
he has the countenance of a hawk.
He's a pretty great pick for a lawman. He has that hawkish look.
Mm-hmm.
We have extended our hospitality.
Damn right we have.
That's enough. The least we can expect in return is for you to control your men.
I can promise you one thing, Sheriff. My men will do exactly what I tell them to.
That's all I'm asking. Everything else all right? The hotel? Your wounded being tended to?
Mind if I ask you a question?
Not at all.
In all my years on the frontier, I never run across a sheriff who wasn't armed. How come you ain't packing?
Well, we never found the need in Refuge.
What, there are no guns in this whole town?
We have our own ways here, Mr. Smith.
Damn right.
Thanks for the coffee.
Pleasure. You are walking a thin line.
Man, all but slapped you in the face with a glove, Sheriff.
That's not what I'm talking about. You said damn twice.
But talking about those rules of purgatory in this movie is after Lefty Slade kills this guy, he immediately is like filled with remorse and defeat, knowing that he's like broken the rules of this place.
And the town people are all brokenhearted for him.
Yeah, and he mentioned something about how he made it so far and came so close. And then what happens, Roy? Here comes old Grant Saginaw
Grant
with that sad face of like, it always makes me laugh. He always has this face where he's like, I gotta clean this shit up again. And this time he just comes and leads Lefty away up to the gate, and the Lefty guy has his head hung low as Saginaw guides him up into the mist, never to be seen again.
Yeah, I guess, it begs the question of, I'm sure, I'm not sure, but I would imagine that in Purgatory or in Refuge, no one's ever come back from where Saginaw Grant takes you when you fail. But later on, we see where they go.
Mm-hmm.
And you can understand why they would not want to go there.
Yep. So right around this time, the sheriff kind of brings everything out in the open about, we know what the true nature of this gang is. We know why you're here. You've caused too much trouble. You're going to have to leave. How do you think Eric Roberts reacts to that?
Not well.
Yeah. He orders all of his men to go to the saloon. I think something happens here where Sonny, they kick Sonny out of the gang around this time, right?
I'm not sure.
Or Sonny defects and joins the townsfolk. And this is where we start to learn about these rules of this place.
Yes, so we had the part yet where he calls out Doc Holliday from behind and
pretends
Randy
to draw his
Quaid,
gun.
Yeah, and Randy Quaid turns to reacts and is like pissed at him for catching him being Doc Holliday.
Mm-hmm. This is all during this part of the movie where he's starting to discover who these guys are. Also during this time, what was her name? Dolly Sloane.
Oh yes. This
who
is
we watched
incident.
Die, Roy. She rolls into town in a carriage and is welcomed into this purgatory or this refuge town. So all of this comes together, and Sonny basically joins up with the townsfolk against the gang. So there's building like war that's going to have to go down. Now this is where I got kind of confused, because this is where we start to learn about these rules where they have to last 10 years in Refuge, right?
I guess so. I didn't remember that, but I'm sure you're right. You wouldn't have just invented it.
Yeah, I remember this. There's a few times throughout where Sam Shepard mentions he's only like a few days away from being able to leave.
That's
so
right.
There is
like the coachman comes, played by R.G. Armstrong, and brings a white rose that Sam Shepard takes, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're about to be able to enter this house justified." And that white rose means that in 3 days or something, you get taken out of Refuge to, I guess, your heavenly reward.
Yeah, which here's what I found pretty awesome is that everyone has a different idea of heaven, but I always really dreamed that I would be guided into heaven by Prune Face from the movie Dick Tracy. What year is that? 1990?
Yeah.
So yeah, we know there's a time limit. I'm pretty sure they mentioned the 10-year thing here, but I think the deal is because they were all violent in their lives, we find out these are all people that are dead who were trying to make it through purgatory to get to a better place. Because they were violent, they can't use guns or anything. So they have to resist all the temptations of their former lives, like the no drinking. Again, how many times can you curse? Donnie Wahlberg was allowed to say damn twice, and Saginaw didn't show up out of nowhere to lead him
Yeah, you're
away.
pretty much not allowed to sin. Nobody, I guess they have guns because they have them later. But the confusing parts to me are like, why do some people in town know who they like? When Dolly Sloane shows up, she immediately knows the rules and that she has a fake name and all this stuff. But these other guys that show up, like the Blackjack Britain gang, they don't know what's going on. They're not given any like primer. They don't have fake names.
They're not dead, right?
What? They're dead.
I don't know. That's never very explicit.
I think they got killed by the posse, and that's why they're all there.
See, my understanding is different, that they wander into this place, and
Well,
because
they found it.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're being treated differently than the other people who are brought there,
Oh,
who are dead and know the rules.
So it kind of is a refuge, and that's the name of the town. Oh, crazy.
Now the question then is, how did these guys wander into this Brigadoon kind of mystery village?
Oh, you're right. You've read it correctly, because later on someone does get shot and then gets up, right?
Yes, and they say, "Welcome to Refuge."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood. I thought they all got killed by that posse. Yeah, well.
Let's restart the episode.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. What was I going to say? Oh, the thing that confused me was, these weird weird rules like that. But and also like, why do they have to have fake names? But they can't just let these gang members do whatever they want, because if they do that, then they also go to hell. Like if
Is
they
that
don't,
true?
if they, yeah, they talk about how if they don't defend themselves, they're going to go to hell either way. Like if they try to defend
Oh.
themselves, they're going to go to hell, and if they don't, they're also going to go to hell.
Maybe if they don't make it through their time in purgatory, they'll go to hell and they're all going to get killed by the gang. I think,
Okay,
or
so one of the
something.
rules
Maybe.
is they have to stay. They have to
They have to make
keep
it out,
from
make
dying
the time.
again.
Maybe.
You can't die twice. Like let's say that you
can't die
accidentally-
early.
Let's say that you're in purgatory and you are bathing in the creek and you accidentally slip and crack your head and drown, then you didn't make it.
No. So I'm going to
Okay.
use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Me too. I'll be back.
I'm sick and tired acting polite. Tell the boys they can start to have their way with this town.
I like to watch that Danny Riley. Tell you that.
Your men seem to have a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah? What of it?
If they'd like to split some wood, stay busy, sort of earn their keep.
Earn their teeth.
Yeah, it seems like a reasonable suggestion.
Where's a pile? Split some wood. Heck, it's the least.
Chop nothing, boy.
Anything else, Sheriff?
Yes, I'd appreciate you ask your men to slow down these horses and stop throwing knives at our church.
And you got yourself a problem, Sheriff.
Yes, it appears I do.
You miserable little bastard. I'll have a pistol with you. You listening?
Get us some whiskey.
There's that movie Brigadoon or whatever. I've never seen that. But there's also, what's that movie? There's that famous old Frank Capra movie. that
I just
part of
came
it's
back.
destroyed.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
How long have you been talking?
89 years. There's a movie like you were talking about Brigadoon, but there's also one by Frank Capra where part of it's been lost and they use like still frames to show you they play audio and just tell you what was going on in the movie at times, and where like a plane flies over a mountain ridge in like the Himalayas out by like Tibet and stuff and ends up in a crazy community.
A Shambhala of sorts.
Yeah, maybe even it is called Shambhala.
Xanadu?
The movie is called Beyond the Horizon, I think.
What did you
Lost
say?
Horizon. Lost Horizon is the name of the movie.
Whoa, a Frank Capra film?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that one. I don't know. I took a restroom break and I opened another beer.
Damn, I wish I had a beer. I should get some.
And Roy, goddamn, I'm not certain these guys aren't alive. Are
alive?
I would say they are, because they do get shot coming up, and it
But
seems
then
like
they don't go to purgatory. There is a line where they do kind of explain this, that purgatory is where the people with a little bit of good in their heart get separated from the truly bad.
yes.
But then why, like, yeah,
I feel
these
like
people
they're.
don't.
I'm going to say they're alive, because
Okay.
I think that it would have shown us, at least in a flashback, of the realization that, oh my God, we didn't survive that ambush by that posse. Like it was all. So I feel like they did, but the thing that's never really explained is why they were allowed to even wander into this metaphysical village.
And why, when the lightning strikes them, are they led like out by the gatekeeper? I guess the coachman. Maybe you don't want to be taken by the gatekeeper, but you do by the coachman. I don't know.
Well, and the gatekeeper takes the lightning guy's corpse. He doesn't take,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like when he leads Slade out of there, Slade's alive.
Yeah.
A lot to think about. Probably gonna have to watch it again.
Yes.
10 years. But where are we in the story? There's this mounting conflict, and the Blackjack gang is gonna square off against the townsfolk of Refuge.
Yeah, and at some point in here, there's something where like Leo, he's Sonny, as we've been calling Leo, Sonny Dillard, not who did not end up forming the department store. He and Rose, they are having like, he starts falling in love with Rose, and he finds out that he's like, wonders why she's not a famous outlaw in hiding. And it turns out that she's like the first woman who was ever hanged in Arizona, and she killed like her stepdad or something who was molesting her.
Okay.
And so she's there. And also at some point, Eric Roberts kind of says that, oh yeah, this is later. Never mind.
says here on the Wikipedia page, the townsfolk admit to Sonny that refuge is a form of purgatory. If they can go 10 years while resisting the temptations of their former lives, they are admitted to heaven. They are therefore reluctant to face off against Blackjack's gang because it will cause them their respite. A frustrated Sonny leaves the church and is jumped, by Blackjack and Cavan, who beat him unconscious.
Yeah, he gets the shit beat out of him.
But it doesn't quite
And-
explain like what's going to happen to them if they just remain, what's the word when you don't want to fight?
Docile,
No, when like you don't want to go to war.
filthy cowards.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I guess like we said, if they die again, then that costs them their respite. Is that how you say that?
Yes.
Respite or respite?
I guess respite.
I always thought
Respite.
respite.
I don't know. Sometimes I would say respite and some respite. Respite sounds like an old Westy way to say that word.
Give me my respite.
Yeah, but maybe it is respite. I don't know. My tendency would say respite, but sometimes that's one of those things that a word that like I would read and not know how to say and say respite. But I've heard when people say it out loud, they say respite. So that's probably right.
Yeah, dictionary.com pronouncing it into my earphones right now is saying respite. So there we are. This is basically a podcast about two middle-aged men learning to use the internet.
In the English language.
Yeah, I'm not good at it. But man, old Sonny gets beat up real bad. His face
Yeah,
gets,
nobody comes to help him.
his face gets like massacred. It's pretty hard to look at, actually. The fat lip that they give him and like the big split lip on the side, it's rough. So Sonny for sure can fight. So he straps on his guns the next day and he's going to face them alone. And these church bells start going off in the morning and all the townsfolk start rushing toward the church. But Randy Quaid, Sam Shepard, JD Souther, who else?
Yeah, first I
Donnie
guess we
Wahlberg.
missed, there's a big part where they're in church at night and Sonny asks them all for help and they tell him they can't help. And we were talking about this where they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't believe I used to look up to you guys. And he kind of calls them out for being pussies. And you're like, yeah, so first Sam Shepard and then Randy Quaid and JD Souther and Donnie Wahlberg, who we find out is Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
They strap on their guns to help Sonny.
Roy, controversial take. Donnie Wahlberg, my favorite cinematic Billy the Kid. We do have a great moment of Sam Shepard like twirling the guns and kind of accepting his fate and just being like, let's do this.
Eric Roberts sees Sam Shepard and with the guns and he says the way that man wears his guns what's he say here? I'm sorry, I had it written down. Put you in the mind of Wild Bill Hickok.
Yeah, put you in the mind. And then right around here, we see Randy Quaid pop out from the bar with a shot in his hand. Remember, he takes a big slug of whiskey, kind of like, we're back.
Yeah.
With the gun in his hand. So they all join Sonny, all these gunslingers.
So no one else wore their guns like that, by Wild Bill Hickok. I guess maybe he also had the physicality of Wild Bill Hickok in general, so it could add to the recognizing him.
Yeah, so we get this shootout here. Can't remember where Rose is and all this, but I feel like she's in trouble. She's in peril because like there's all of this rape threat throughout the second half of the movie where Stormare is just like obsessed with having his time with her.
Oh yeah, they said like that they said he could rape her but when they were done killing everybody or they were going to leave her alive so he could rape her first.
There's a great Eric Roberts line where he's like, you'll get to have your fun.
Yeah, really weird.
So we get the shootout. This is where the gang guys are all just shot down. So what happens to Stormare?
Good question.
He tries to shoot his own nephew. No, he does shoot his own nephew.
The
fatal shot that Sonny receives is from his own uncle.
Which is why I think you're right about the movie, because it's like, yeah, Sonny gets shot and dies and then gets back up and is like, it didn't even hurt or something and starts fighting more.
Yeah.
We also get a part of Billy the Kid playing possum like he's dead on the ground and then reloading his gun with another dead guy's bullets.
Oh, that's right.
And then everybody getting excited about that. Pretty long shootout scene here in the town. Shootout climax.
Yeah. And then we have the big squaring off of Eric Roberts and Sam Shepard. He challenges Wild Bill. He calls him by his name, Wild Bill Hickok. but he loses Roy. And Sam,
Yes.
he loses very easily.
Yeah.
Like Sam Shepard just blasts him instantly. What is it, like right through the chest? And he does the same thing that the nephew does, where he just gets back up and he's like, I guess I'm one of you now. To which Sam Shepard says, I wouldn't count on it. And
Yeah, I
then shoots
wouldn't
him
count
right
on
through the head. So we have this.
We have the craziest part of the movie.
We have like all of these dead.
This guy.
Is that right now?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember what happens with the second lightning. I
mean,
remember
earlier when there was the lightning with the guy, with the knife guy, that was really crazy.
Yeah, but does it come back?
I don't remember.
Well, we have
I just remember them like. Go ahead.
We have these streets littered with bodies. And then, man, there's an image of the Gatekeeper, Grant Saginaw, as he wanders into like the main street with all these bodies, where he straight up looks like so pissed that he has to get rid of all this shit. Like he's basically just the waste management guy in Refuge. I was laughing so hard. I don't know if that was something that you noticed.
He hates to work, as do all people.
He's just like all those reservation guys.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to work. He just wants a handout.
All part of the white supremacist message of Purgatory,
aka Day of the Rope 2. So the Gatekeeper carries off, well, he only carries off two bodies. He carries off Stormare and Eric Roberts, and he takes them beyond the gates, Roy. And we find out what's beyond those gates. I don't remember what it is. Do you?
A huge cavernous hell.
A fiery chasm.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is my favorite part of the movie, where
really?
Eric Roberts and Peter Stormare get thrown into the chasm. Yeah, it's so part? Crazy. It's like, I was like, holy shit.
They're dead when they get tossed over, but as they are falling, they come back to life, or they come to consciousness and begin to scream.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
No wonder Lamb didn't want to go down there.
Montezuma's revenge. And then what happens? We're back in the town. All the guys that took up arms and broke the rules are all pretty much accepting their fate, that that's where they're gonna go. And that's what makes that scene extra sad and crazy, is that we see the bad guys go there, but now we're thinking,
but you're
damn,
thinking about the good guys gonna go there too.
Yeah, if I would have written this movie, the good guys would have gone there. Because rules are rules, Roy. But that's not what happens, of course.
No, the Gatekeeper, old Armstrong, comes back and says the man upstairs may be tough, but he's not blind.
Yeah, prune face in the stagecoach.
Yes. And then he just takes them all at once.
Really, some of the worst acting in the movie is this scene here where the gunslingers who are guilty are outside the gate getting ready to go to hell. And when the coach comes up and the guy steps out, like they don't really respond much at all. Like I would be fucking hooting and hollering that my eternity was spared.
Yeah, they just kind of roll with it.
They just roll with it and just kind of slowly walk over toward the coach.
Then he says that Sonny can go too to heaven.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He tells Sonny he can go, that come on, he's going to heaven too.
What?
After less than one day in Refuge, he gets to go to heaven.
If I was some of those other townsfolk, I would be fucking pissed.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what?
Like they've been having to follow the rules. All he did was kill somebody and he gets to go.
He killed his bad uncle who was gonna rape, and then that's it.
Yeah, and then like
I don't remember that dogma.
No, it's very weird that he doesn't want to go and he wants to stay in Refuge and hang out with Rose, who isn't allowed to go to heaven yet. Yeah. She has to keep doing her time, and the Gatekeeper's like, all right, but your place will be ready for you when you're ready. So he doesn't have to follow the rules once he's there either. He's just like he can just be king of Refuge for 10 years or however long he wants until Rose gets to go.
True. He can booze and say damn all he wants.
Yeah.
He's been given a pass.
Yeah, he's got a free pass to heaven.
That's crazy. I didn't think about that. And this is pretty much where the movie ends, because the guys get into the coach and Sam Shepard makes him the new sheriff, gives him his badge. And you see those guys like hanging out in the coach as it goes up into the sky.
Oh, yeah, you do. You see it go up in the sky like the coach, which is another great image. But then, yeah, you see them all in the coach. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. They're like Ezekiel in that one book.
Right. Does Ezekiel go up in a coach, or is it
Elijah,
yeah.
Ezekiel saw the will, and then Elijah was drawn up. That's right. I'm remembering now in real time. So that's the movie. Yeah, those guys are riding into the light. But I would have ended it with I would have done it a little bit different. I know we don't like to talk about that on this show of how we would have done it, but I would have made the rules have to apply to Sonny, that he's got to walk the straight and narrow.
Yeah,
And that immediately
that would have been a good thing if he had to walk, if we was told that because don't they say when he says he wants to say that it's that it's not easy. They do tell him that.
Yeah.
But then the guy's like, no, your place in heaven is cool, bro.
But I would have ended the movie with gunslingers going up into heaven and then another shitty gang just immediately arriving, lost and not knowing what to do. Like, oh shit, now I'm really going to be tested again.
That would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been pretty good. But, I'm not Uli Edel, whatever, however you say that guy's name.
Uli Edel.
Uli Edel.
Do you know?
Is it Adele?
I think it's Adele.
Oh, yeah, like the singer.
Yeah, Edel.
Yeah.
Edel. What about in the end credits? The costume supervisor was Jake.
That was it?
No last name.
Whoa, I wonder why. Maybe it was a dog.
Maybe.
And dogs don't have last names.
So is it finally time to look up songs by J.D. Souther?
Yeah, I have a list right here. Can you name any off the top of your head?
Well, I know he did New Kid in Town, which, as we know, Bret Easton Ellis loves. He did Heartache Tonight.
Yeah, he co-wrote Eagles songs, but was he a member of the Eagles?
I don't know. I was just thinking, did he do Giving You the Best of My Love? Maybe not. Yeah,
now you got that Bret Easton Ellis thing from the Bret Easton Ellis podcast.
Yeah, that he likes New Kid in Town.
So that's the thing, right? He always asks all of his guests
that he loves if they like the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you that, how you feel about them.
I'm not a big fan of the Eagles. They have the occasional song that's okay, but I don't really like them. I'm going to be the hipster that's going to be no.
Yeah. I mean, this opinion, of course, is your opinion swayed by the line in The Big Lebowski? Because I feel like that line did more to damage the reputation of the Eagles than a lot of things.
It probably did, but I really like when I think it's like, I don't really like the Eagles.
I'm going to say no, I wasn't swayed by it, and I never liked them that much either, because I never liked Desperado, and I never liked Hotel California. And when we were kids, I don't know how old Hotel California is, but it was always on the radio, even on like pop radio, because somewhere in there in the 90s, there was this big Eagles live album or something.
I prefer solo Don Henley songs.
Well, I love Joe Walsh. I know you.
Yeah, I love Joe Walsh. Yeah, but I don't really like the Eagles. But I like even like just the other day on the radio, "The End of the Innocents" by Don Henley came on. I was rocking out to that a little bit.
Yeah, but anyways, it's strange that Souther was a guy that wrote a lot of their songs. I always thought that they were kind of an in-house songwriting group. I didn't realize that they had this other guy. I mean, these are big songs. "Heartache Tonight," co-written by J.D. Souther.
Yeah, that song's not bad.
I don't really like it. What are some other big ones?
See to the Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Always. Did he write that, or is that not the same old Smoke Gets in Your Eyes song? Yeah, by the Platters. Yeah,
maybe he's covering the Platters song.
They did. I guess the Platters even were covering it, but I'm familiar with the Platters version.
What about that song, How Long Has This Been Go? Is that an Eagles song?
How long has this been going on?
It is. Yeah.
That's not bad.
I wrote that. Yeah. Besides the Eagles ones, I can't say I know that many songs by this guy. Probably Heartache Tonight is his big one. Is this a guy that died? J.D. Souther?
Yeah, I don't think so. I bet he's still alive. He looks like one of those people that's just in like amazing health and never eats anything bad. He's old. He's like 76, 75.
Yeah, looking at young pictures of him, he looks hilarious. He looks kind of like a Charles Manson-y guy.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case.
Maybe he wrote some songs for Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, he produced the Linda Ronstadt album, it says here.
The one that keeps popping up is called You're Only Lonely, which I don't know. I'd have to listen to it to know if I realize if I knew it or not.
He also worked on Don Henley's The Heart of the Matter, another song I don't mind. Got to get down to the heart of the matter, even if you don't love
featured
me
on the
anymore.
Film Urban Cowboy. Well, that was Purgatory. where should we go next? I kind of enjoyed talking about a Western. One thing that I wanted to talk about in my closing thoughts is this channel. I may have even brought this up in the past on the show. There is a
Damien Chapa channel.
free to air Western channel that you can find called Grit.
Oh, yes.
Have we talked about Grit?
No, we haven't, but I've watched a little Grit in my day.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I feel like Purgatory has definitely been on Grit, because every time that I've seen it, every time that channel's been on, it's been something from this period. Like a lot of 90s Western TV stuff I've seen on there. That mixed in with like old school, like the Rifleman and stuff like that from the 60s. But my dad loves Grit, but the way that their TVs are set up in their house, he can only get Grit in the garage. It has to do with some antenna situation where it's something about cable versus antenna. So he has a TV mounted in his garage. He never turns it off of Grit, and he never turns the TV off.
It's
like
just
in the last
on Grit,
dude, in the last like 3 or 4
that.
years. And even here's another layer of it. Grit will be on, but the volume will be turned down, and the sports radio on the workbench in the garage will be blasting, and he never turns them off.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's an exercise bike in our garage that has, well, it's more of like a
workbench.
It's like a recumbent bike. So it has a seat,
Yeah.
instead of like a bike seat. And that fucking bike hasn't been used in years, but my dad sits on it just to watch the Western channel in the garage and like smoke cigarillos and hang out and watch stuff like Purgatory. So this was a garage jam when I watched it this last week.
Nice.
It made me think about Grit TV, and it made me think about my dad. I should have asked my dad about it, because I bet he would have had something to say. I'm sure he's seen it more than once.
The funny thing, this is not about the Grit channel, but there used to be, at least allegedly, a newspaper called Grit that kids would sell to make money, or at least they could order Grit to sell in the backs of comic books for decades. Like this goes back at least to the 1960s up to the 1980s, if not even farther back. And I would read all these old comic books, and there would always be this ad for Grit, like that you could sell Grit and make money if you were a kid. And they would always have a picture of a kid who had the Grit who was selling it, the copies of Grit. And no matter what decade it was or era, the kid in the picture would always look like you'd think you would hire like a child model or something. Mm-hmm. It always looked like a crazy, like was mentally challenged or deformed kid or something. It always looked like some kind of crazy urchin, like that you would never want to be.
This sounds insane. This sounds more plausible than your fucking the Adam West dream.
It seems more dream-like. Yeah, I would definitely recommend Googling a Grit ad.
A newspaper that was made for kids, or just for kids to deliver?
For kids to sell.
Okay, man, that's golden. That's way better than our fucking dead JD Southern discussion.
Well, my bad. I thought that JD Southern discussion would really go over.
Dude, me too. I just thought that there would be way more songs
for you. We did not. I thought there was going to be.
It's not all your fault, because me too. I was like, man, we'll come back to that, dude. There's gonna be so many we'll talk about. There's like 2 Eagles songs I recognize.
I had another question for you.
Yes.
Well, who was your favorite new kid on the block?
You know what? It was Donnie.
Nice. I feel like he was the most popular.
He was the tough guy. He was like the street kid. I always felt like Joe or Joey. He was the one that all the girls liked. Like there was a gal that I grew up with that you knew. Her name was Feather Riles, that I knew from a young age. She loved New Kids on the Block, and she loved Joey.
Nice.
I can't remember his last name.
Joey Knight? No, that's what those brothers were named.
Jordan and
Jonathan.
Yeah, let's just look up here.
Joey McIntyre.
This may be more interesting than JD Souther. Yes, Joey McIntyre. You got Jonathan and Jordan Knight, Donald Wahlberg,
Danny
Danny
Wood. I would never have gotten his last name.
Yeah, Danny was the one that everybody made fun of because he was the least handsome. Yeah, Massachusetts boys, and really the first boy band.
What about Menudo?
I mean,
what about the Jackson 1985.
Many more, I guess, before them, to be honest. But I guess you could say that they kicked off the 90s version of that,
Yeah.
late 80s version of that. But
New Edition.
you know what's
Kind of a
funny
boy
is
band.
I liked them. I don't know if you listened to them when you were a kid.
I got big into them for like a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah. So, I liked Hanging Tough and The Right Stuff and all that.
Yeah.
I really loved Weird Al's White Stuff.
I don't even remember that.
Of the Oreo, the white stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, he liked the cream and the Oreo.
Yeah,
He
one
wrote a
of
whole
the New
song
Kids
about
on the Block songs was on the radio the other day. Their songs are fucking terrible. Like in
Okay,
retrospect,
this is what I was
Tough
getting
so
at.
bad.
This is what I was getting at, is that there's a ton of 80s music that I like and I'm nostalgic about, but there's a period of shit that I liked when I was that age that I can never revisit. Like, I can't stand New Kids music. It's so bad.
And the New Kids on the Block music, it's like just a total, like everybody was into it in school. And so I got into it and I liked it and listened to it. I had a New Kids on the Block live tape and stuff. And now when you listen to it, you're like, oh, that's just total groupthink, wanting to be part of the crowd, kid stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the worst music I ever heard.
I kind of like a couple Milli Vanilli songs, but even that, like, there's a period there in the late 80s where everything was really, really bad. Vanilla Ice was very bad. MC Hammer, not good.
Oh yeah, they're playing You Can't Touch This on the radio. That was really bad.
Yeah, I just can't really vibe on that stuff nostalgically. Like, I'm not interested in ever revisiting that.
There's music from that period I like.
Oh, for sure.
In the
Like, I
same
can listen to
genres
Fine
even.
Young Cannibals from like the late 80s. I can listen to She Drives Me Crazy.
Sure.
But yeah, that kind of stuff. I can even listen to Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now.
Yeah.
Kind of get away with that. But yeah, there's a couple things like New Kids that there's nothing there for me at all. It just sounds dead.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Like, hard to believe that's a recorded music.
Yeah, it's just so goddamn bad, Roy.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, somebody's at the door.
Oh, I wonder who it is. Is it Mr. McFeely?
I'm looking through the window right now, Roy. It's an old Native American man leading a horse on a rope. Should I go with him?
Uh-oh. Don't go. Do not go with that.
I know I said GD 3 times during this podcast, and I think I said it one time too many. That's it. That's it for me. Roy, you're going to have to take over. Until next time.
Have a good day, everyone.
Did you have any closing thoughts? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, we got everything I had.